Imagine facing relentless challenges, not just because of your dreams, but because of who you are. In the heart of a bustling city, one determined Black woman stood up to adversity with courage and hope. Her dream? To open a cozy cafe that would bring people together, even as she faced opposition at every turn. Vandalized windows, hateful comments, and doubt from her own community threatened to crush her spirit. But she didn't back down. Instead, she transformed her cafe into a beacon of resilience, inspiring an entire city to see what's possible when hope and determination take the lead. This is the story of how one woman turned her struggles into a movement, changing not just her own life, but the lives of countless others. What did she do to overcome the odds? And how did her cafe become a symbol of unity? Let's dive in. Before opening the cafe, she had always been a quiet force in her community, dreaming of a place where everyone could feel welcome. But not everyone shared her vision. When she finally found a small, sunlit corner to set up her cafe, the challenges began almost immediately. Her landlord hesitated, doubting whether her idea could succeed. Suppliers questioned if she'd be able to keep up. And then there were the outright attacks. Graffiti scrawled across the cafe's front door before it even opened. Whispers of "it won't last" floating through the neighborhood. Still, she pushed forward, pouring everything she had into her vision. Each chair she set out, every recipe she perfected, and every late night she spent preparing was a quiet act of defiance. But the true test came when the cafe finally opened its doors. Would her neighbors show up, or would fear and skepticism win? Opening day was a mix of hope and anxiety. She had spent the morning carefully arranging fresh flowers on each table, making sure the space felt as warm and inviting as she had always imagined. But as the clock struck 9, only a handful of curious passersby peeked inside. Some lingered, hesitant, while others quickly moved along. The silence in the cafe felt deafening. But as the hours passed, a small group of neighbors arrived, some out of curiosity, others to show quiet support. Among them was an older man who had lived in the neighborhood for decades. He sipped his coffee in silence before leaning over and saying, "I never thought I'd see something like this here." His words carried both hope and the weight of history. Outside, however, the resistance hadn't disappeared. A few blocks away, a group gathered, murmuring about how her cafe didn't belong. The tension was far from over. The cafe began to find its rhythm over the next few weeks. Slowly, people trickled in, some to enjoy her signature baked goods, others simply curious about the woman who dared to try something new. Word spread, and the atmosphere inside became a vibrant mix of laughter, conversation, and the clinking of coffee cups. But outside, things were far from peaceful. One night, as she was closing up, she noticed something unusual. A group of people standing across the street, their faces shadowed by dim streetlights. They weren't there to grab a late coffee. The tension in the air was unmistakable. As she locked the door, a single rock smashed against the window, shattering the calm she'd fought so hard to create. Heart pounding, she stood her ground, determined not to let fear win. The next morning, as the community arrived to see the damage, one question hung heavy in the air. Would this be the end or a turning point? The shattered window sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. For some, it was a reminder of how deep the resistance ran. For others, it became a rallying cry. The following morning, neighbors showed up in unexpected numbers, some to help clean up the glass, others to simply stand in solidarity. Among them was a young artist who offered to paint a mural on the plywood covering the broken window. "If they want to destroy, we'll create," she said with quiet determination. As the mural took shape, word of the attack spread beyond the neighborhood. Local news outlets picked up the story, painting a picture of a woman standing strong against hate. But not everyone welcomed the attention. Late one night, she received an anonymous note slid under the door. Its message was chilling. Asterisk leave while you can. Asterisk. Despite her fear, she knew stepping away wasn't an option. What happened next, however, was something she never expected. The room was eerily silent as Emma stepped forward, clutching the worn leather journal in her hands. The truth had unraveled quickly, too quickly for her to process fully. Her pulse raced as she looked at the others gathered in the dimly lit space. Each face bore a mixture of fear, guilt, and anticipation. They had come too far to turn back now. "I know what happened," Emma said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "And I know who's responsible." A sharp intake of breath echoed from the corner where Liam stood, his jaw tightening. His usual confidence seemed to falter, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. For weeks, he had been the one urging them to dig deeper, to uncover the secrets that had been buried for so long. But now, as Emma's words cut through the tension, he looked like a man caught in the crosshairs. "You think it's me?" he asked, his voice low but charged. "After everything I've done to help." Emma's gaze didn't waver. "It was never about helping, was it? You manipulated us, kept us chasing shadows while you covered your tracks." The others shifted uneasily, glancing between Emma and Liam. It was hard to believe, but the evidence was there, hidden in the journal's brittle pages, in the coded messages Liam had pretended not to understand. Every clue they had followed had led them here, to this moment, and Emma couldn't ignore the pieces falling into place. Liam took a step toward her, his hands raised in mock surrender. "This is insane," he said, forcing a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "You're letting paranoia get the better of you." Before Emma could respond, a loud crash came from upstairs, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Everyone froze. "Who else is here?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "No one," Emma said, though doubt crept into her mind. They had chosen this abandoned house precisely because it was supposed to be isolated, away from prying eyes. But now, the echoing footsteps seemed to grow louder, more frantic until... The door burst open, and a figure stumbled into the room. It was Alex, pale and breathless, clutching a blood-stained envelope. His presence was a shock. He had disappeared days ago, leaving behind only cryptic messages that hinted at betrayal. But now, as he stood there, his eyes wide with urgency, it was clear he had been running for his life. "They're coming," Alex gasped, doubling over. "I tried to stop them, but..." Before he could finish, the sound of distant engines roared to life, cutting through the silence like a warning. Panic rippled through the group as they realized the stakes were higher than they had imagined. Whatever truth they had uncovered wasn't just about Liam's deceit. It was tied to something far more dangerous. Emma turned to Alex, her mind racing. "Who's coming? What do they want?" Alex's gaze darted to the journal in her hands. "It's not just the truth they're after," he said. "It's what you can do with it." Liam's face darkened, and for the first time, Emma saw the fear in his eyes. He lunged for the journal, desperation driving his movements, but Sarah was faster. She grabbed a nearby chair and swung it, blocking him long enough for Emma to step back. "Go," Sarah shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "Take it and go." Emma hesitated, torn between leaving her friends behind and protecting the secret they had risked everything to uncover. But there was no time for second-guessing. Clutching the journal tightly, she darted toward the back door, Alex following close behind. The final twist came as they reached the edge of the woods. Alex stopped suddenly, grabbing Emma's arm. His expression was grim, his voice barely a whisper. "They think you have the power to stop them," he said. "But the truth is, they were never after you." Emma frowned, confusion washing over her. What are you talking about? Alex's grip tightened. It's not the journal they need. It's me. Before she could react, Alex stepped back, raising his hands as a shadowy group emerged from the trees. His eyes met Emma's one last time, filled with a strange mix of regret and determination. Run, he said softly, and don't look back. And as Emma disappeared into the darkness, the echoes of Alex's sacrifice lingered, leaving her with the heavy weight of a truth she had yet to fully understand. Emma ran until her legs burned, the journal pressed tightly against her chest. When she finally stopped, the forest was silent, the shadowy figures and Alex's voice a haunting memory. She collapsed against a tree, gasping for air, her mind reeling with the weight of everything that had unfolded. Days passed, and the world seemed to move on, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. She began decoding the journal's remaining pages, uncovering secrets that exposed not only Liam's manipulation, but a larger, dangerous conspiracy. With the evidence in hand, she anonymously leaked it to the authorities, ensuring the truth would surface. Though she never saw Alex again, Emma often wondered if he had planned it all, if his final act had been the only way to save them. As she walked away from the chaos, she felt a quiet strength, knowing the truth was now out there, unstoppable.